Hello, people of Pathlight Thrive Hive. I hope you're well, or people of YouTube, if that's where you're watching. So I thought I would do a short talk about change and grief, because I'm noticing a lot of change happening at the moment in the world and also in my little world, and quite often with change comes loss as well as progress. And very often we might not fully appreciate those losses, we might not grieve those losses, and we might struggle to adapt to the changes of the world. So I thought I would share 5 examples that I've been thinking about and feeling, because I seem to be surrounded by a lot of grief and change at the moment, and maybe some of it will resonate with you, and I'd be very happy to hear your own thoughts and experiences around this, so do please feel free to share. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a conflict I experienced with my daughter this week. I'm not going to go into the details of what happened, but it was a boundary issue and there was rebellion involved. So it was quite difficult. I found it quite difficult to manage. I think it was probably difficult for her as well. There was a standoff situation and a big talk later on that day. And it's really the first time that I've experienced my teenage daughter being so fiery and confrontational. And what I tried to do was walk the walk. What I try and do with my clients is to try to see the need beneath her behaviour. So rather than criticise the behaviour, try and connect compassionately with what the need was that was unmet in her, whilst maintaining healthy boundaries. So as part of this whole process, I experienced some sadness, some grief, because this new behaviour or new chapter of behaviour that I witnessed in my daughter was another marker for me that my little girl has gone. The one who was very sweet and affectionate and compliant and respectful and always keen to spend time with me. I won't say that's completely gone, but it's part of the healthy, natural process of growing up and separating and individuating, becoming who she is. So it's a positive thing on one side. It's very natural, it's very healthy for this rebellion to take place as she finds out who she is, and she stands up for herself and starts to challenge those boundaries. So in one sense, I'm proud and I'm accepting that this is normal and it's healthy. And on the other side, it is still hard to adjust, I find, to those kind of shifting realities of who she is and how our relationship is. So it's important for me and important for us generally, I think, to acknowledge the sadness and grief that we have around these shifting realities. So I did. I sat with that. I spoke to my therapist about it and some friends as well. And did a lot of meditating. And 2 days later, I felt closer to her again, possibly because, I don't know, some shifting sands had settled a little. There was a bit more respect. There was closeness again. She even came to me and asked me for help with a CV that she was creating for herself. So any kind of rupture, as I say to my clients, can be repaired. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the beginning of an ongoing conflict. It's just about respecting that other person and trying to work out a compassionate solution that maintains boundaries for both parties and mutual respect and looking at those needs that are underneath the behaviour. So that was a learning experience for me. There was some grief and sadness in there, but also some growth for both of us, I think. The next example that I'm going to offer is around the pandemic, which I've spoken about a lot already over the past year and a bit. But I'm really feeling a lot of people are struggling to adapt to the constant shifting and uncertainty, and a lot of anxiety, especially at the moment in the UK with things starting to open up again. And I've noticed in myself some anxiety arising. I've noticed that manifesting in confidence issues for myself as I go out into the wide world a bit more. And also some sadness, some grief around losing the peacefulness and the more kind of mindful and community focused aspects of life that I've really connected to over the past year. It's, yeah, I've been fairly solitary over the past year, not seeing very many people and certainly not going into any busy situations. And yeah, I'm finding the roads, businesses, crowds of people quite challenging at the moment. It's a little bit intense. So yeah, it's all a bit fast, a bit noisy, a bit aggressive, and I don't like it. So I'm grieving that peacefulness that I really enjoyed, and at the same time, the flip side of it is that I am looking forward to seeing more people, seeing friends, family, going out for meals again, and being able to sit indoors and going to gigs, which might seem a bit noisy, and going out and playing football and all that type of stuff, which I'm gradually getting myself into. I'm trying to remain mindful of my window of tolerance, whilst trying to stretch my comfort zone at my pace and on my terms, as far as possible, because we all have choices about how we are in the world and how much we want to buy into, and whether we want to go chasing off at 100 miles an hour or whether we want to be a bit quieter and more peaceful. So yeah, it's those two things: the balancing, the kind of getting back into life, but also doing it at my pace and trying to hang on to that peacefulness that I've become accustomed to over the past year and beyond that, actually. And I do appreciate that many people have been really desperate to get back to how things were, or what they might call normal, and that's okay. Horses for courses, everyone's different. So again, respecting each other's views and just trying to take things at our own pace, and grieving those changes if you feel you need to. And again, trying to honour what's important in you. So if it's important for you to step back from the crowd and take some time to be quiet and not sign up to the 100-mile-an-hour way of living, that's okay. And then the third example really is around my client work. And I've really noticed a lot of grief in my client work recently. And many of my clients are really struggling to acknowledge their grief, struggling to really express it and just sit with it. It's a difficult emotion to be with. And many of them are kind of in the anger phase or the denial phase. And for me, it's really just about trying to provide a space for them to uncover what is beneath that anger and that denial, and really start to explore and express that grief, that sadness. Difficult though it is, painful though it is to do that. And over time, they come to acceptance, as we all do when we work through things. There's only way through, and that is to go through it. So the fourth example is my mum, who's recently had her 75th birthday. So she's perhaps grieving her youth, but she's also grieving a particularly painful situation in her life at the moment. And I'm not going to go into the details again, but for her, I think it is about taking the time to accept her powerlessness in this really difficult situation she's finding herself in. Again, the pandemic has been a real reminder how out of control we are, how little we do control, and how powerless we are at times against what's going on in the world outside of us. And our power really comes in how we choose to respond. So this is what I've been trying to support my mum with really for quite some time now, around you can't change what's happening. I know it's incredibly painful, and it's okay, let's talk about it, express those emotions. But all she really has control over is how she responds to this very difficult situation. So I think she's kind of grieving that loss of control and grieving that having to let go of her idea of how she would like things to be. And then the final one, which I really want to honour, is that tomorrow is the 4th anniversary of the Manchester Arena bombing, which was an event that really touched me. It changed me. I feel it really changed my city and the people that were involved in that, not least the 22 people who lost their lives and the thousands of people who were affected by the trauma, and the friends and family of people who died and were there. And I've read today that in time for the 5th anniversary, there's going to be a permanent memorial in Manchester, which no doubt will be a place of place to honour and grieve what happened there. And I think it's really important to mark these anniversaries, whether it's the arena bombing or somebody you've lost, or any other event which has caused grief and sadness, to mark that and really be cognizant of the effect it has on us as human beings. And it's really, for me, a reminder that life is incredibly fragile and incredibly precious. So marking those anniversaries and just honouring those difficult feelings that come up around that. So if you were affected by that in any way, then my thoughts and feelings go out to you. And I've just thought of another anniversary, actually. I said there were 5 things. There's always one more. So today actually is the 10th anniversary of me leaving my family home. So I separated from my wife 10 years ago today. And I do not regret that decision, but I still have grief and sadness around that. It's okay to be okay with something like that, a parting, an ending of a relationship, but it's also okay to feel that sadness and grief around it. So I'm feeling that today and remembering the very positive and happy memories that happened within that marriage, and some sadness around how it ended, but not the fact that it did end, if that makes sense. So yeah, lots of stuff, lots of grief, lots of change. Life is constantly changing, and some of us are better at coping with change than others. But what I'd really like to encourage you to do is, whatever change is going on, whether it's to do with the pandemic or a relationship or any difficult situation in your life at the moment, just try and embrace the feelings that are underneath that. And if you are grieving, then try and just sit with that grief and express it. Find someone to talk to. If you've lost a loved one, Cruise or another bereavement charity are great. Or speak to a friend or a counsellor or whatever works for you. Express it in this group if you wish. It's an open space for you to contribute and just say what's going on for you. So please do feel free to share your experience, any thoughts you have on what I've said or what's going on for you at the moment. So go well, and I hope to see you at an event soon. I've cancelled this weekend's walk and talk, but I have scheduled another one for Friday the 4th of June, I think it is. So maybe I will see some of you at that. So take care, enjoy your weekend, and see you soon. Bye-bye.